Hi, this is Todd. I'm your host from The Laundry List. Welcome to our podcast. I am live from Laguna Beach. Charles, Blake, and Soraya and Ralph are in the studio in Scottsdale. And can they see Ralph? Can everybody see Ralph?
I think so.
Yeah, everybody can see Ralph. He's hard to miss.
Ralph's done all the work, and Ralph's probably the healthiest amongst all of us. So we're going to try to get Ralph to give us some tips today. So we hope you all are having a great June. We are having a great time. We're playing a lot of pickleball, going to the beach, working on our relationships, trying to find our center, and, feeling joy and happiness, which I know sometimes is not that easy, but really just letting go of the ego and the control and all of the self-imposed places that we put ourselves in. And it's nice to just kind of let loose and have fun and play like a little kid. So before we get going, Charles, you want to read the 14 traits of the laundry list?
I do. Number 1, we became isolated and afraid of people and authority figures. Number 2, we became approval seekers and lost our identity in the process. Number 3, we are frightened by angry people and any personal criticism. Number 4, we either became alcoholics, marry them or both, or find another compulsive personality such as a workaholic to fulfill our sick abandonment needs. Number 5, we live life from the viewpoint of victims, and we are attracted by that weakness in our love and friendship relationships. Number 6, we have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, and it is easier for us to be concerned with others rather than ourselves. And this enables us not to look too closely at our own faults. Number 7, we get guilt feelings when we stand up to ourselves instead of giving in to others. Number 8, we became addicted to excitement. Number 9, we confuse love and pity and tend to love people we can pity and ultimately rescue. Number 10, we have stuffed our feelings from our traumatic childhoods and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much, and this is also known as denial. Number 11, we judge ourselves harshly and have a very low sense of self-esteem. Number 12, we are dependent personalities who are terrified of abandonment and will do damn near anything to hold on to a relationship in order not to experience those painful abandonment feelings. And we often receive those from living with sick people who are never there for us emotionally. Number 13, alcoholism is a family disease, and we became para-alcoholics, also known as codependents, and took on the characteristics of that disease even though we never picked up a drink. And finally, para-alcoholics, or codependents, are reactors rather than actors. Todd, take it away.
Well, thank you, Charles. That's great. When you were reading those, I'm excited for Blake to share a little bit of his story and talk about some of the experiences he's had lately. But can you also pull up the promises? So if we do the work that we talk about on this podcast, we start moving away from the laundry list and into what's called the promises of life, the promises of the Laundry List podcast, which is freedom from a lot of these controls and barriers that we put ourselves in for so long in childhood and in adulthood. As Blake shares, I want him to try to identify with the promises and to really talk about, how he's getting to those promises, which really in my mind is freedom, is joy, is happiness, is letting go of the people pleasing, letting go of the trauma, letting go of the anxiety, letting go of caring what other people think about you, letting go of the validation and approval from others. And when you let go of all that stuff, the promises come true. And the promises, do you find them, Charles?
Yeah, I did. I got him. I got him here too.
Yeah. Why don't you just read them, and then you can talk about the dichotomy between the laundry list and the promises.
Yeah. So these are the 12 promises. We will discover our real identities by loving and accepting ourselves. Our self-esteem will increase as we give ourselves approval on a daily basis. Fear of authority figures and the need to people please will leave us. Our ability to share intimacy will grow inside us. 5, as we face our abandonment issues, we will be attracted by strengths and become more tolerant of weaknesses. 6, we will enjoy stable, peaceful, and financial security. We will learn how to play and have fun in our lives. 8, we will choose to love people who can love and be responsible for themselves. 9, healthy boundaries and limits will become easier for us to set. 10, fears of failure and success will leave us as we intuitively make healthier choices. 11, with help from our ACA support group, we will slowly release our dysfunctional behaviors. 12, gradually with our higher power's help, we will learn to expect the best and get it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent. So Excellent. I can speak to some of those. And it's always changing and always getting better and some days backwards. But I think the one that like I really kind of have cued on like first and earliest as I'm going through a divorce is my self-esteem will increase as we give ourselves approval on a daily basis. And it happened because I wasn't getting knocked down and I wasn't getting knocked off the pedestal and I wasn't getting all this, shame and all this stuff. And it was just like, I was sad at the beginning, but I also didn't have like this constant stream of criticism or you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not enough, you're not this. And then it's like, it's hard to then combat, the inner self-talk when you're having all this outside noise. Right. And now that the outside noise has gone away, I can talk to 6-year-old Blake and for the first time in my life, I can recognize when 6-year-old Blake is not okay. And I think that's been really big because it's just recognizing that quicker and quicker. Like he doesn't have time to stew and be alone and get me to act in a certain way.
So for those listeners that may not know what we're talking about, when we said, adult Blake can talk to 6-year-old Blake, why don't you kind of give a little bit more description and thought there? So
6-year-old Blake grew up in an alcoholic home. Both his parents were alcoholics. He thinks that everything's his fault. He's scared. It's a period of time in my life. Like I can imagine the 6-year-old. I know exactly what he looks like. I know exactly, his mannerisms and everything like that. And when I'm, being criticized or I'm having, one of these, things happen, that's immediately the place that I go to. And then adult Blake is current, Blake as he sits here in the podcast studio and can make a lot better decisions than 6-year-old Blake, who is just wants to be loved, wants to feel safe, wants to, genuinely just know that no matter what, everything's going to be okay. Cause he doesn't think that.
Yeah. And so like when 6-year-old Blake is in a relationship or a marriage and getting yelled at and getting berated, instead of like the adult Blake showing up, the 6-year-old would show up and take it and feel like it's his fault and literally go back into a place where he's 6 years old in his family of origin and feeling bad about himself that he did something wrong. Right.
Yeah. And like almost like for a period of time, like almost like this yelling and all this stuff is what I deserve. Right. Which I know today isn't the case.
So just having that knowledge and understanding that is like, to me, it's like, that's half the game right there. Just understanding what we just talked about.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's work to like kind of heal that trauma and heal that dysfunction and hurt. But just knowing that 6-year-old and, there's a 6-year-old inside all of us. And then there's an adult inside all of us. And just knowing that I can talk to the 6-year-old, I can heal the 6-year-old, I can work with the 6-year-old, and I can get through this, one day at a time with the help of, friends and therapy and meditation and God. It's like, it's amazing just knowing that gives me some relief, right? It gives me some relief that I'm not alone. Other people experience this and there is a way out. There is a path towards the promises.
Yeah. And the biggest thing I can do, adult Blake, is to protect 6-year-old Blake. And when things happen, I'm allowed to say, hey, the way you're talking to me is not okay. Like talking to you is very traumatic and I would not like to talk to you anymore. And whatever the response is, like that's okay. And like they can scream and they can say, oh, somebody's telling you, Todd told you to say this and that. And it's like, no, this is what I need to do to protect 6-year-old Blake. Adult Blake needs to stay in his adult and have rational conversations and not let outside, let my partner of 8 years spin me and get me upset. And that's a whole, talk about the promises. That's a freedom in itself, is like being able to have people say things to you that normally would have sent you in a tither and would have, whatever, and it not affect you, because it's like,
but even if it affects you and you do go to the 6-year-old, it's amazing. Like, you can recognize that, okay, I'm in the 6-year-old, I'm scared, I'm hurt, I'm crying. I feel like I did something wrong. I feel shame. I feel guilt. I feel anxiety. But then you can pull yourself out of it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
and talk about how you can do that.
I think we can just use current day, because for all you listeners out there, I'm in the middle of it. I'm 4 weeks in, and some days are good, some days are bad. I've definitely gotten a lot better over 4 weeks just with time. But the example being yesterday, through talking to my ex-wife on the phone and all these things, that she said that were hurtful and trying to hurt me. And 6-year-old Blake got really sad and scared because he's used to the reaction being like, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. I deserve this. And that wasn't the case. And I got really emotional, and I reached out to some people, and I just told them, like, hey, I had this happen. I'm sad. I'm scared. And just like, I think just being able to label what you're feeling and be able to like admit that you're feeling these things and you're not stuffing the emotion down, I think is the first kind of step through being able to kind of walk through it.
Yeah. And then talk about, because you were in this relationship for pretty much most of your adult life, right? Yeah. And talk about like how you're going to try to get to a place where and think and believe that you deserve to be treated with love, respect, safety, and validation and admiration from a person who is coming from a similar place.
Yeah. I mean, the first part being, yes, because I've known my now soon to be ex-wife a long time, I took loyalty as a personal challenge, and I would put up with a lot of poor and bad behavior because of that, because I was loyal. And now that I'm removed from it and I'm, hanging out with, and I don't care if it's guys, girls, whatever, like I am 100% okay, like standing up for myself and being like, this is what I expect, and being able to found, new relationships on a lot of, on just a square foundation of truth. Because when I met my now ex-wife, I was in the heat of addiction. We had known each other a long time, and it was just seated on a lot of lies. Because that's probably one of my biggest character defects is honesty. And especially when we met and I was doing drugs and I was concealing that and all those things. It's nice now to be in a place of recovery where I can be 100% myself and be 100% honest from jump.
Isn't it amazing when you said that word conceal? I immediately went to, because I did the same thing, by the way. Like I immediately went to, wait a minute, conceal is usually something a kid does with a parent. Like, wait, I'm trying to hide and conceal things from my parents so they don't find out and get mad at me. So isn't it amazing? Like codependents and people that deal with some of these symptoms, like immediately put their partner in a position of being the parent.
Yeah. And
that's not normal.
It's not normal. I mean, I married my mother, in a lot of ways, because I like that chaos and I like that turmoil and I like that, why should I say I liked, because it was familiar. It was all I knew, right? Where now healthy adult Blake knows what he wants, and he wants someone that, is a counterpart. And, I think the biggest thing was, and I think what I'm looking for going forward is like mutual respect. Because when you're idolizing or you're looking at this person like your mother, they have no respect for you. They have no, like, it's they're babying you, they're mothering you, brush your teeth, stop snoring.
They're like rescuing you.
Yeah.
They're like trying to like, they're treating, I mean, it's a two-way street. It's not one person's at fault.
No, it's not.
You're treating the other person like a parent, and they're treating you like a child, because that's the way both parties are setting up the relationship.
Yeah,
and it's impossible to have a healthy, romantic, respectful relationship under those dynamics.
Yeah, and I mean, and when I first got the news that my ex-wife was leaving and said she didn't love me anymore, she did say one thing that I was like, oh wow, like this was exactly what we're talking about. She's like, I've always been so scared to leave you because I thought if I left you, you would die. Because your mother told me that when you were getting checked into rehab. And it's like, no healthy relationship can be founded on that foundation. Right. Like, and
that's for sure.
And
that's for sure.
And yeah, it's been painful, and yeah, it's been sad, but I would say to the people that are going through this out there that if you just can hang in there and feel the feelings, like, and we talk about in another program, like, don't quit before the miracle happens. Like, it gets better, right? Like, the more time that I have spent away from her, the better things have gotten, right? And it's not saying that I don't, that she's evil or that I hate her or any of that, because I don't. I'm very, in fact, I'm very grateful for her, and I'm grateful for the decision she's made, because it's opened up this whole new avenue of life that I didn't even fathom 45 days ago, right? Like, I'm able to do what I want with people that I want. And I like all the things that Blake really likes to do and wants to do, like drive out to Laguna for a night, like was never a possibility when I was married. And those are the things I love to do, right? Like, I love to just be spontaneous and say, hey, yeah, let's go drive to the beach today. And all that stuff was taken
even
away.
If it was a possibility, the amount of anxiety and fear
for sure.
and uneasiness you would feel while you're on that trip, because all she has to do is say get mad at you or hang up on you, and you immediately ruin your whole trip.
The perfect example is we're sitting in last summer we're sitting in a coffee shop, and I'm sitting there with Todd. And I said, hey, I think we're not actually going to drive. We're going to fly back tomorrow. And she got mad at me. And she started saying, well, you're a liar. You told me you were going to be back tonight. Like, I need that blah, 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 whatever the situation was. And I couldn't have gotten to the airport any faster than I did that day. I'm like, hey, Todd, I got to go to the airport. Danielle's saying I'm a liar for not coming. Like, I gotta go. And like, no matter what anyone said, and like looking back on it, I see how like legitimately like insane that is. Like, no matter what anyone said, like that's what I was doing, because 6-year-old Blake was running the show and he was in charge, and she really was my master in a lot of ways. Like, I relied a lot on my well-being and how I felt on her and her mood. And if she was happy, I was happy. If she was unhappy, I could have just made $10 million and I would be very sad because she's sad,
Yep.
So I guess the only other
Charles,
thing. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Charles, what do you have for Blake? Because I know you can relate to everything we're talking about here.
Yeah, there's no way around divorce not being easy, especially when you've been together as long as the two of you had. In fact, I know people that had 6-month marriages and it was the end of the world. It's always hard, especially if you're like us and like our listeners. And I like that we started this off, Todd, and thank you for bringing the promises into this. The recovery occurs in a group setting. The recovery occurs alone. The recovery occurs with one-on-one. And in our group settings, we read the laundry list, but we also read the promises, and we say, hey, this is what we had or have, but this is what we can get, right? And we always say that before we read the promises, because those are things that we want. And Blake, that I think of that fifth promise, right? As we face our abandonment issues, right? Which it sounds like both people shared in your abandonment issue, right? You're thinking, I don't know how I'm going to live alone without her. And she's staying in because she's thinking he can't be alone without me, right? He's going to die. And that is just you said it best. I mean, that's just the foundation for, something probably even lasted longer than it should have.
Oh, for sure. I should have never gotten married. And I distinctly remember standing in the shower in Cabo and being like, what am I doing?
Like the night of, right?
Like,
the night of.
Like, I'm going to get married in 2 hours. Right, can I sneak out of here? And like, it's just, but I didn't want to be alone, and I didn't want to abandon her. And then, the other flip side is I started getting healthier over the last couple years and didn't need as much rescuing, and her manipulation of like mothering didn't work. And, that's why it all, as Richard said 7 months ago when we started therapy, he's like, this is going to come to a head one way or another, right? Like it absolutely will. He's like, I can promise you that. And I'm grateful for the outcome.
So Todd, I heard a lot of things hit on pertaining to the fifth promise, which is that as we face our abandonment issues, right, which sounds like both sides have done here, we will become attracted by strengths and become more tolerant of weakness. And I was never attracted by an individual, another person's strengths, right? Because them having strengths, well, one, they're not going to love me. Look how put together they are, right? Number two, it eliminates another one of our laundry list traits, which is, wanting to find the weaknesses in others and focus more on those so we don't have to look at ourselves. So I was always pushed off of stronger women that had, apparently their things put together, their life together, right? So there's a number of elements that had on, and they're more likely to leave me, right? If they have a lot of positives and a lot of good things about them, right? And a person that knew me very, very well said to me once, Charles, there could be 100 women in a room and you're always going to pick the sickest one in there. And that was just because he knew better than I did just how broken I was, right? So this, as we face these abandonment issues, we start to become attractive to strengths. And then the second part of that is we become more tolerant of weakness. That includes weakness within me, right? Hey, I'm flawed. Hey, I'm going to make mistakes, right? Hey, it's not the end of the world if I do. And it's also not the end of the relationship if you find them within me or I find them within you. So I heard a lot of that in Blake share today. And what you're going through, right? I remember when I first went through a divorce, and I went to Jimmy, Todd, who both of you guys know. And I said, how do I handle this pain? And he's like, the good stuff, right? Pain is the good stuff. And if we hide from it or try to find something else to replace it or something else to make it go away, we miss the good stuff. And all things come, spiritual growth, personal growth, recovery from our laundry list steps, they all come from pain. There's no way around Blake feeling pain through this. Not today, and maybe it lasts for 6 months, or maybe it lasts for 14 years. But there's going to be some element of it and how we recover from it and sit in it, as you said, Blake, which I know you got that from Todd because I got it from him as well. Then we don't need to die or, it passes.
Yeah, and the other thing I will say that if you are going through this is get some people that you can trust and really lean on them, because knowing all of the stuff that I know from the various recovery programs, I couldn't have done this alone, right? Somebody told me from day one, they're like, Blake, find your tribe, find your guys, and lean into them, because that's really, really important when you're going through stuff like this. And because going through this, I'm not saying I haven't been alone or going through part of this alone, but being able to rely on other people and have some support, because the emotions are very intense. But on the other side of that, the pain, I'm grateful for the pain now because it really, for the first time in a long time, I felt truly alive, because to feel pain, to go through these things means you're alive, and it means you're human, and means you're doing life, right? I numbed out for so long with drugs and alcohol, and I, numbed out and stuffed my feelings because I was, raised in a dysfunctional home. And now I can feel the feelings, and the feelings, they're not the most pleasant, and they're hard. And, there's sometimes you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but, it's I'm grateful for the pain.
So there's three things there, listeners. It's feel the pain and knowing that it will pass. Like just being in it and knowing, okay, these are normal feelings that I'm feeling and I will get through this. And that's where, for me, I found my higher power to give me some relief. I found God to shine his light and love on me, to make me realize that I am not alone, that I am loved, that I am a beautiful man. I'm a beautiful child of God. And then I would write mantras down. I would write 10 mantras down. I'm a beautiful, compassionate man. I'm honest. I am a, sensitive man. I am a beautiful man that helps others. And I would just write 10 of these mantras down that are positive reinforcements that I may not believe at the moment, but just saying them slowly and letting them permeate and resonate within me, I slowly start to believe them. And then the third piece is, don't do this alone. You got to call on yourself, call your friends, call your therapist, call us, call people and let them know, you know what? I'm hurting right now. I'm in a lot of pain and I need help. And people will come to your rescue. If you ask for help, people will show up. And, if you do those three things, you can get through anything.
It is so dangerous to think or believe, and it's foolish as well to think no one would understand the pain I'm going through. That's the saddest place to be, right? Reaching out for help, Todd, I love it. There's you could reach out to us. I guarantee if there's a member listening that's in pain, you could email us, call us, and I know that Todd, myself, Soraya, Blake would spend the time with you.
Yeah,
because asking for help is so powerful. It is not something that no one would understand about, I promise.
You instantly get some sort of relief when you ask for help. Like, we might not be able to solve your problems, but just being able to say, hey, I'm feeling pain, like Todd said, feeling pain and I need help. Like, when you voice that to someone else, it's the beginning. Like, you instantly feel better. You're like, oh God, I'm not, the guy didn't just hang up on me and, he didn't tell me any like solutions to my problems. He just listened and now I feel better. So,
yeah, those three things for sure. Feel the pain and, knowing it, this too shall pass, and finding your higher power to connect with and feel that love and support and energy from your God, your higher power, whatever that looks like. And then do your mantras and say these positive things about yourself and ask for help and be around other people. I mean, just those three things, you're going to move through this and you're going to be a stronger person from it.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that I've learned, over this last weekend is the promise that it talks about that we can have fun in our lives. We will learn to play and have fun in our lives. And I didn't realize in my last 8-year relationship, like how much my life and fun was like stripped because I was worried of what she was going to think or worried, that she'd be mad at me. Like, we're riding around a golf cart in Laguna and we're yelling at people and making dog noises and Ross has got his fart machine going and
just being silly,
and just having fun and being in the moment, where if my ex-wife was there, I wouldn't have participated because I would have been worried of what she would like. She'd be like, oh my God, you guys are being so embarrassing.
Yeah, this is what you do with these guys.
Like, are you kidding me? Are you 12? Like, what? And now it's like, I don't care who sees it, because that's truly who I am. And now I know that I'm okay. Like, if you don't like me because of that, then that's on you, because there's plenty of people that will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to love yourself and you got to like yourself. And you know what? People will show up in your life that will support who you are and, identify the love inside of you. So, Soraya, do you want to give everybody our email information if they want a Red Book or want to come on the podcast?
Yeah. If you need somebody to talk to, or if you need a Red Book, or if you want to come on the podcast yourself, you can send us an email at thelaundrylistpodcast@gmail.com.
Take us up on it. Take us up on it.
Yeah.
Come on the podcast, call us for help.
Yeah. Or
send you a Red Book.
Yeah. Feel free to email that email address with your phone number, and we'd be happy to give you a call if calling us is too much.
Yeah. And then review us, give us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. We've done over 30 episodes, and we're really excited to see where this podcast goes. I've heard unbelievable feedback from people. In fact, I got an email a text from a guy 2 days ago that I do business with. And he saw my podcast on social media and he listened to it. And he's going through a divorce and he identifies with the laundry list. And he says he didn't know that other people felt like he did. And this is a 55-year-old man, incredibly successful in business. And he just identified with the stuff that I went through, and just having that identification is so important to realize we're not alone, that we have this, camaraderie and this fellowship where we can share these things and be vulnerable and feel emotions and feel all these emotions together. So I love hearing that feedback. It really warms my heart that we're kind of sharing something that's touching other people. So please give us the feedback. And anything else you guys have for our listeners before we close?
Well, the listeners were really hoping to hear from Ralph, but we'll have to save that for next episode.
Ralph's the healthiest guy I know.
Yeah. Unconditional
he knows
love.
He's a fucking stud. Ralph knows.
Yeah, he knows.
He is love. He is a stud. And he doesn't need to know it from anyone else. He knows it in his heart.
Yeah, he knows he's a beautiful, beautiful dog.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many sad moments my dog has gotten me through. So
It's not something.
get a dog if you want to get through these hard times. That's for sure.
Get a big dog so you can hug him like a teddy bear, like I do.
All right. Well, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. Please be nice to my friend this week. And we hope you all have a great week. And we look forward to seeing you next week on The Laundry List.